at Worlds. Really tough opponents here. It should be really exciting. And you didn't have the camera on us, but my good friend Adam over here has just been sort of wildly gesticulating and pointing at random things on our pieces of paper here because Alex got tricks.
Alex has some interesting Pokemon on his team. Now, we did, of course, get a peep at Wolfe's earlier. Didn't fare so well against the rock slides coming out from his opponent in Estefan. But I think it's going to be a very different game in this matchup. Both these players getting into it. Looks like it's going to be very, very different play from Wolfe. We didn't see all of his Pokemon, of course. Some of them stayed at home. We did see that Togedemaru.
Right.
And the interesting thing about Togedemaru is Alex Underhill's regional win.
Yep.
He bought the Togedemaru here. The teams are up on the screen. And Evan, please give us a run-through of what we're seeing here.
Well, so on the left-hand side of your screen, you are looking at defending world champion Wolfe Glick, running the common Mimikyu and Snorlax core, alongside Togedemaru for some fake-out support, the very common Arcanine, giving that Intimidate, some nice switches, Tapu Fini to defend his Pokemon, and the offensive pressure of Kartana. And on the right-hand side, I don't know what's going on.
We've got a Torkoal, we've got a Mimikyu, a Drampa, a Mudsdale, a Lucario, and a Hariyama.
Yeah.
There's so many things on here that I want to talk about, and I see their time ticking down. Lucario, who's bought that this season?
Yeah.
Let's be honest, that's not come out much. Torkoal, not with its friend Oranguru.
Yep.
What's going on there? I guess it's got a Trick Room
Or
or
a
a
chlorophyll
Mimikyu.
Pokemon.
What is Torkoal doing? Are you meant to be here? Mudsdale, a Pokemon I rate so highly under Trick Room. Just looking at that, you've got Mimikyu Hariyama.
Yeah.
That's such a good way to set up Trick Room with no Tapu Lele coming in. It's such an interesting team. I want to see what the lead is. I want to see how it runs.
Yeah, so what I'm really excited about is that this looks like the hardest Trick Room team that we've seen in a while. Looks like Alex is going pretty much all in on that Trick Room, and if he can get that set up, we have seen those kind of Trick Room teams just run over the opponents. Looks like Lucario is going to make its, I think it might actually be its World Championships debut.
At this
alongside
tournament, yes.
Mimikyu.
At this tournament,
It
definitely.
may have had one or two.
2014. It's been away for a few years, but it's back on the field, and it's interesting to see two Mimikyu facing each other.
Yeah.
For one key reason, whoever sets up the Trick Room is probably the one who wants it there.
Right.
But if you get it set up on you, you may be able to handle it. Now, Lucario obviously is looking at that Snorlax and ready to try and take it out with a big fighting type attack. There's no way he doesn't want to be going for it with something like the close combat, and Snorlax just isn't going to let that happen.
Yeah, Snorlax will protect itself, but Lucario showing the final gambit into Snorlax's protect, and Wolfe actually showing taunt on his own Mimikyu. Mimikyu trying to Swords Dance after the taunt. So no Trick Rooms happening at all that turn. Just Lucario going for the common move Final Gambit into a protecting Snorlax, while common move Taunt on Wolfe's Mimikyu blocked the common move Swords Dance on Alex Underhill's
What a
Mimikyu.
normal game we're watching, Evan.
So common, so
The final
basic.
gambit means there's no safe switch for this Snorlax.
Yep.
And both players hesitant to hit the Trick Room button, even though I'm sure Alex wants it for what's in the back, and Wolfe wants it immediately for his Snorlax. They don't want to press it immediately. It's going to maybe benefit the other person even more, and this Snorlax is probably really not feeling it right now against this Lucario.
Yeah, well, it looks like Alex is going to withdraw his Mimikyu that has been taunted. Opted for the Mudsdale in the back. Lucario is going to be able to get off its final gambit into that Snorlax, so trying to deal a lot of damage back, but of course Snorlax has way more hit points than Lucario does, so we'll be able to just tank that final gambit and gain its health right back up with its Figgy Berry. Lucario probably wanted to catch something on the switch in as Snorlax ran away from that final, from a potential close combat. But Mudsdale taking the Shadow Ball like a champ, going to go ahead and get that stamina boost, while Wolfe is going to be able to belly drum up and max out its attack.
Well, a very interesting play from Alex, and I think losing a bit of momentum there by using the move Final Gambit. As you said, predicting a switch in, but Wolfe calling the bluff fantastically, knows that he's maybe not going to go for it again, and just leaves it there. So that's a real big loss. I think losing the Lucario in this matchup, that's something that he's going to have to be a little bit more careful about in future games. But for now, you look at Wolfe's side, he's got his Snorlax with the belly drum, and stamina boosts, maybe not enough in that instance.
That being said, Snorlax is pretty low after that final gambit
It
plus the
certainly
belly
is.
drum. So maybe in range for this Swords Dance Mimikyu to pick up a KO here.
If it can get itself all set up, get itself in a position. And it probably doesn't want to try and do that with the Mimikyu on Wolf's side, being able to bring that taunt into play. Mudsdale keeping it safe for now.
Yeah, Mudsdale just trying to protect away any damage here. Well, we are going to see the never-ending nightmare coming out. That I believe is on Wolf's side, just going to try and get the damage back.
Yeah, you like to think it's going to be going
it's actually
for
the Z
something.
Destiny Bond.
But Z Destiny Bond, with the Mudsdale protecting, means that it's probably not going to be getting any benefit from it.
And actually the Trick Room, not even an attack.
Yes, nothing from Alex there. And the Z move is now gone, now wasted for Wolf. The interesting thing, though, is watching Alex set up Trick Room with a belly drum boosted Snorlax on the field. He must feel great that he's going to be able to get something out of this. And I'd be really interested to see how the speeds match up between Snorlax and Mudsdale. You've got to assume that with Wolf Snorlax, it's not the quick one we saw in the last round.
Yeah, Wolf obviously bringing the Trick Room mode with that Mimikyu and Snorlax. One of the ways that a lot of players like to combat a heavy Trick Room team is have their Trick Room sweepers set up first, while the opponent is wasting turns setting up Trick Room.
Yes.
Well, Snorlax is fast.
Yeah, it's going first in the Trick Room.
Oh, and it does pick up the KO onto Mudsdale through the stamina boost.
You do have to wonder about maybe what was being thought of last turn, and Alex changing his mind on does he want Trick Room?
The double Trick Room, Alex potentially trying to reset the Trick Room or trying to block Wolf from resetting the Trick Room. A lot going on in that turn there as Trick Room remains up.
And it also extends its timer out as well. So we have the full duration, but Trick Room being up, Torkoal is one of the Pokemon you really, really want in there.
Yeah.
It is an exceptionally slow Pokemon. So is Snorlax, but Torkoal is pretty much carrying the weight of this team on its shoulders now. It's going to need to be hitting all of its attacks, and he still has the disguise on Wolf's Mimikyu to deal with. That's something that just means this Mimikyu on Wolf's side is able to do what it wants for at least one more turn.
Right. And of course, Torkoal, it gets that eruption, which is incredibly powerful, especially with the sun up. But if Mimikyu is going, since it will be able to tank at least one for no damage, it can start whittling away those hit points and ruining that Torkoal's fun. Arcanine, the switch in for Wolf, going to get the Intimidate off onto both the Mimikyu and the Torkoal and be able to tank any eruptions that come out from that Torkoal.
There it is.
There is the eruption. This is full power in the sun. Deals some damage to Arcanine and just pops the disguise on Mimikyu. So not the saddest eruption we've ever seen, but still one of the weaker eruptions available. Alex will be able to get the Shadow Claw off this time, though. Not enough damage to pick up the KO after that Intimidate. And Wolf was trying to get rid of that Trick Room. Will return the dimensions to normal.
Knowing that the Torkoal's there, it's guaranteed to get rid of Trick Room. And I think taking Snorlax out is a clear indication that he knows he can win this without that. The very, very smart play. He's had total control of Trick Room, I think, throughout this game, while Alex has basically been playing catch-up a little bit. It's been very curious to see that all come together. But with Arcanine on the field taking that eruption so well, Mimikyu sticking around through the Shadow Claw, Wolf's just in the driving seat. 4 versus 2 in the Pokemon count is so, so hard to come back from. And this is how his team is meant to operate.
Absolutely.
This was what he wanted to be doing in round 1, and clearly what he's been doing in rounds 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Well, if Alex is going to dig himself out of his hole here, he has some of the tools. Torkoal, if it's going to be able to get that Trick Room back up, can dish out the damage for sure.
Has to predict the potential Trick Room changes, and he can't even do it right now.
Anymore.
The taunt from Wolf is so, so good here.
Ooh, and Alex went for the damage onto the Arcanine. Torkoal, though, just going for another eruption, will be able to pick up the KO onto Mimikyu this time, but will hit into the protect of that Arcanine. So Alex will be able to pick up a KO here, his first of the match, but still, without that Trick Room up with no option of setting it, that Torkoal is not in a great position against a Tapu Fini.
It's a little bit too little too late for this Torkoal. Yes, it got the knockout, that's absolutely fantastic, but it's against a Tapu Fini now. And with the taunt coming in, yes, it was great that he managed to deal with the Mimikyu and the Trick Room setter from Wolf's side of the field. But in the same vein, it really doesn't matter when you can't reverse it and set it back up yourself. So that's what I think is going to be the key factor as we move into a game 2. How they deal with the Trick Room. Both of them want the Trick Room. I think Alex needs the Trick Room.
Mm-hmm.
But Wolfe was able to play in and out of it in the same game, and that's huge.
Well, Wolfe just goes for a Dazzling Gleam onto the Mimikyu and the Torkoal. No protects coming out from Alex. Mimikyu on Alex's side will get the disguise popped, while the Flare Blitz, boosted by the Drought, will connect with Mimikyu on Arcanine's side. Looks like that wasn't enough to pick up the KO onto Mimikyu, just barely hanging on.
Clinging on there with a pretty much single hit point as Torkoal shows off one of its moves.
Yeah, it goes for the Solar Beam, which of course does not need to charge up thanks to the Sunlight, connects with the Tapu Fini. That is a super effective attack, but Tapu Fini is so bulky, not going to go down there, and will be able to stick around for one more turn.
Yeah, Mimikyu absolutely sticking around. Does give Alex maybe a potential out, and it's very interesting to think about how it's managed to stick around. It likely, though, we've seen Swords Dance and Trick Room and Shadow Claw. You'd be inclined to believe it takes the play rough, and then you wonder it just doesn't have the priority, so it's just going to get knocked out before it even gets a chance to follow up.
Yep, and no attacks coming out from that Mimikyu before it faints to that Dazzling Gleam. So just the Torkoal, Arcanine going for the Flare Blitz again, of course still boosted by Torkoal's Sun. Is resisted, and Torkoal will be able to survive this first round of attacks here as Arcanine eats its berry and heals back up thanks to that recoil damage.
Yeah, just really making this game comfortable for Wolfe here, and without the Trick Room,
here we go.
I don't see many outs, but Eruption's going to try.
There's one of our sad little Eruptions there. Not very effective on both Tapu Fini and Arcanine. Torkoal out of Trick Room in low health, not able to dish out the damage that Alex needs to bring this one back. He's going to have to make some adjustments for game 2.
The little Eruption that could, or tried. At least.
It tried.
It needs Trick Room, and I think this is going to be a really tough game 2. When you see how well Wolfe commanded the Trick Room, he had it for Snorlax when he needed it, and then he got rid of it when he had Arcanine and Tapu Fini to bring in. So seeing the way he plays that, not allowing Alex free control of that is so important.
Yeah.
And Torkoal isn't going to do well without it. You do have to wonder if he has an option to really play around that. It's going to be tough, and I think watching the way this game has panned out, Alex has gathered as much information as he can, but he's still got a very clear plan that he can establish at team preview, and if he didn't get it right in game 1, he's got to go all the way back to the drawing board. Not quite the team building, obviously, but think all the way back to turn 1 and team preview in particular.
Turn 0.
The final gambit was a really interesting play from Alex, and I think maybe a prediction that went a little bit awry. That's something he's going to have to adapt as we come into game 2. Both players loading in pretty promptly.
Yeah, I mean, the Lucario seems like a pretty clear answer to a potential Snorlax, knowing that people who don't have a hard Trick Room team of their own want to get their own Trick Room sweepers out when you are running that hard Trick Room team. So the Lucario, maybe Alex was hoping to catch Wolfe by surprise with that Pokemon. Some threats that maybe Wolfe didn't know how to handle. Maybe worried a little bit about that Togedemaru, but you might even just switch that up to the Hariyama, just for more bulk, so you can actually do more than just Final Gambit into a Snorlax that tanks that pretty comfortably.
I think going double or nothing on the Final Gambit is a huge play from Alex that just hasn't worked out for him. And seeing the Snorlax stick in as Final Gambit came out was a really poor use of it. Usually it's there to take out a threat immediately. You can have a kind of inclination of how much Lucario has as hit points. That's how its damage is based off. It's your number of hit points removed from their number of hit points. And it's really that simple to see exactly how it's going. Now, if there was a switch and something a little bit frailer came in, then that's what I would have liked to see, but we didn't quite get that. So with Wolfe knowing that he's trying to Final Gambit as early as possible, I think he's just going to leave his bulky Pokemon in. He has no reason not to.
Right. Like, if you have a bulky enough Pokemon and you're facing down the Lucario, if it's just going to Final Gambit, there's not that much pressure there.
Really
That being said, Lucario does have the option of going offensive with things like a close combat or a lot of other more powerful attacks that allow Lucario to stick around. But
you do have to wonder, though, why Lucario went for the Final Gambit again. Now, the Final Gambit was going very, very quickly. It was, I mean, it was against a Mimikyu and Snorlax. But just to see it go, you know, guaranteed, to play Final Gambit twice raises a question about why is it just Final Gambiting. It's out on the field in the lead again, next to its pal Mimikyu. And it's the same lead from Wolfe again.
Yep, both players liking how that first game turned out. If I'm Wolfe, I like this better.
Oh,
but
yes. I mean, he did really well. He didn't get anything, no value from that Z move, which I think is something he can make it even more comfortable in. But to command a win like that without your Z move dealing damage or taking any knockouts, pretty concerning in how much space and breathing room he had throughout that game.
Yeah, well, as you see, people loving the high-level reads from Wolfe Glick. He definitely showed that off last game.
Yes.
All the trick room shenanigans. This is the kind of thing that you can't do against a player like Wolfe. You can't just, hope that your trick room goes up. It's very difficult if you're running a heavy trick room team to get that up against someone like that.
It's not a linear match.
Ooh. Rock Slide coming out from Lucario, misses the Mimikyu, hits the Snorlax. Wolfe throwing his hands up in the air. Mimikyu was going for the Destiny Bond there, not the Z Destiny Bond, but Snorlax going to not take any damage. The Shadow Claw actually connects with Mimikyu, so the Rock Slide missing, really helping Alex out right there.
Yes.
Shadow Claw just popping the disguise instead of getting the KO and flashbacks to Swiss round 1.
Ooh.
That's a flinch on Snorlax.
That's
Rock
not
Slide.
what he wants to see after how game 1 went. Looking to get that Destiny Bond off, not the Z Destiny Bond,
Not the
which
Z.
I think is important.
Yeah.
Because he has the option now for a Never-Ending Nightmare or Z Destiny Bond. But if he needs Snorlax to be set up, then he can't rely on Z Destiny Bond purely because Rock Slide, the Z Destiny Bond using that redirection effect, Rock Slide isn't going to be affected by that. And if Snorlax could keep getting flinched, who knows what could happen. Where there's a Rock Slide, there's a way.
We saw what happens. We saw that in Swiss round 1.
We do know what happens, and it's not pretty. Wolfe kind of laughing that one off. I think he still feels quite comfortable about the matchup right now. Not under as much threat, but after the disguise is busted, his Mimikyu is out of there.
Yeah, not going to stick around for another Destiny Bond. Just switching out for Tapu Fini, getting that Misty Terrain out on the field. Happy to tank anything from this Lucario or from this Mimikyu. Another Rock Slide coming through from that Lucario, just dealing a little bit of chip damage to both Pokemon. As Mimikyu on Alex's side, just going for another Shadow Claw, a little bit of damage, and another flinch on Snorlax.
Now it starts heating up when you hit flinch number 2.
These are those flashbacks.
You can see him looking a little bit distressed, I'd say there. At that one, he needs to start getting things out of Snorlax. But the Tapu Fini switch in, obviously very, very good. Misty Terrain not helping too much. But interesting to see Lucario keep going for Rock Slide. I know that Rock Slide has this lovely flinch mechanic attached to it, that everything's so popular, and here it is again.
Still Rock Sliding, connects with both Tapu Fini and Snorlax, and Tapu Fini flinches this time. Mimikyu on Alex's side is going to go for the play rough. Not going to be a KO onto Tapu Fini and Wolfe. Snorlax will be able to get the belly drum off finally turn 3 this time after all of those flinches. So Wolfe is able to get the belly drum up, still has to worry about potential flinches coming out from Rock Slides on Alex's Lucario, but he hasn't been punished as hard as you might expect for Snorlax not being able to move for 2 turns.
No, bringing in that Tapu Fini has been fantastic, and that it didn't get knocked out this previous turn. It's still going to get knocked out if a Rock Slide connects with it. Of course, it's not 100% accurate. But it still bought him a little bit of time. As you said, not a hard punishment for setting up Snorlax, and even though it's flinched, it's been a bit of a pain. Now it's got the belly drum, it wants to attack even more. It might want to try and work in a little bit of recovery with a recycle there, but there's still not too much damage. Mimikyu could play rough it, which would be quite nice, but the Shadow Claw's not a threat, so it's not worried about that at all. Mimikyu on Alex's side does still have its disguise intact, which I think is very interesting.
All right, well, Tapu Fini will switch out for the Arcanine.
Great switch.
Gets the Intimidate off onto this Mimikyu and onto the Lucario. Obviously, seeing the damage that Mimikyu has been able to put out with its Play Roughs and its Shadow Claws, getting that Intimidate off is pretty big. The Rock Slide not dealing that much damage because of that Intimidate, but Alex is going to go for the boost here, going for the Swords Dance, while Wolfe, no flinches from that Rock Slide, will be able to set up Recycle, which will give him a little bit more breathing room in case he hits another flinch.
Yes, but this Snorlax is in a really great position, even after the 2 flinches. It's belly drummed, it's got Recycle, and the Intimidate from Arcanine's so good here. Not only is Arcanine pressuring it with a type advantage, it's just in a great position because of that Intimidate. That said, Alex really doesn't seem to mind.
That's some damage onto Arcanine, a critical hit from that, and a flinch. Mimikyu goes for another Swords Dance, going to be boosting up the disguised Pokemon there. Snorlax is going to be able to get off a frustration, though, channeling what Wolfe must be feeling right now.
Yes.
Connects with that Lucario, a critical hit. Get off my field. No more rock slides.
Sweet, sweet justice for all of those rock slides. But interesting to see Alex still going for rock slide.
Yeah.
It seems like he was pretty limited in his way out. And to see the torque hole here is very interesting. With the Mimikyu setting up with Sword Stance, you think the Mimikyu is going to want to start attacking.
Yeah.
Attacking isn't setting up Trick Room.
No.
And that's what torque hole is going to need if it wants to do any damage here. Snorlax with a belly drum, if it's carrying high horsepower, is going to be able to deal with it. Even Return is going to be able to deal with it. And that's something that I think Alex has maybe that previous turn should have known about the potential for the Lucario to leave the field and set up a Trick Room. I don't know if he's trying to buy time, but he feels a little bit behind the pace right now.
Yeah, Wolfe just going to double target down this Mimikyu. Flare Blitz will pop the Disguise, which will open up Mimikyu to being attacked by that Snorlax, which has belly drummed.
This move decision is huge.
Ooh, it's the frustration into the Protect. Mimikyu is going to be okay, sets up the Trick Room.
Yes, and that's a big, big decision from Wolfe. If he'd have doubled down on the Mimikyu, could have been in a little bit of trouble, but he lets Trick Room go up, which I think, with the Torkoal on the field, is interesting. He must feel very comfortable that Snorlax can stick around. Obviously, it's recycled, so unless Alex has a reliable way to get a clean knockout with Torkoal, Mimikyu's not going to be able to do it. Torkoal has to carry this one, take a clean knockout all the way, then he should be in a good position, and Arcanine's going to try weaken that Eruption.
Yep, the Extreme Speed coming back will make sure that Torkoal's Eruption is not at full strength, still boosted by the Sun, so still dealing good damage.
Ooh.
Not enough. Pretty close, not enough on either of them. Arcanine holding on with 4 hit points, eats its berry. Snorlax hanging on with a little bit more, eats its berry as well. It
Dinner
is a
time
relative
for
smorgasbord. Both of those players getting their berries up while frustration will connect with the Torkoal, and Wolfe is going to be happily taking those KOs onto Torkoal. Mimikyu goes for the play rough, and Snorlax avoids the play rough.
Wolfe looking very content with that play. Simply put, that was what he needed. This Snorlax is in a position where it can't be stopped, and I think setting up the Trick Room without a reliable way to deal with Snorlax was a real gamble. Eruption wasn't going to be reliable while Arcanine was on the field with Extreme Speed.
Yep.
And that's something I feel he maybe overlooked a little bit in that setup phase. So really, again, a similar story to Game 1. You can't set up Trick Room while Snorlax is on the field unless you've got the answer.
Yeah.
And to be frank, a Torkoal just isn't it. It's such a bulky Pokemon. Unless you have Snorlax set on 51% health and you have a full health Torkoal in the Sun with Eruption, I just can't see a way where you can justify doing that reliably every single time.
Yeah, Alex maybe got a little bit greedy going for those extra Sword Stances instead of putting down extra damage onto Wolfe's Pokemon. Wolfe now able to just protect both Snorlax and Arcanine to see what Alex wants to do here. Mudsdale goes for the high horsepower into the Arcanine, while Mimikyu actually is going to be able to get another Swords Dance off, but I'm not so sure that Alex is going to get a chance to use that attack.
No, it doesn't seem too likely, really, considering that Trick Room's still up, Snorlax is still in play. I mean, Snorlax may struggle a little bit, you know, if it didn't have access to something like the high horsepower, but it's a common move. It's something that you take just for a matchup like this. And I think with Mimikyu in there without the Trick Room, with Trick Room in play, you know, it doesn't have time to reset the Trick Room. And as you mentioned, it's been a little greedy. If maybe an attack had come out earlier from that Mimikyu that forced the Snorlax to play a little bit differently, maybe the Eruption would have got the knockout, and you have to wonder if boosting all the way to the top with your Sword Stance is the way to go here.
All right, well, Alex has decided to protect this turn, protects Mudsdale. Snorlax goes for the attack onto Mudsdale, but Snorlax avoids another play rough. So Mimikyu did get opportunities to attack that Snorlax, but Snorlax avoided all of them, and the Flare Blitz onto Mimikyu, the Focus Sash coming out. So Disguise plus Focus Sash, which makes Mimikyu incredibly, weirdly bulky.
Yeah, minimum 3 hits required. I mean, Disguise doesn't take anything away, so then you're going to need at least 1 more to bring it to the Focus Sash. And that's really interesting as Mudsdale
double protect
gets
hit.
it. And that's what it needs, I think.
Snorlax is frustrated hitting into those protects. Mimikyu goes for a Shadow Claw, will connect with the Arcanine, so Alex is going to pick up a KO, a critical hit.
Yeah, it gets what he needs there. Maybe bringing himself back into it a little bit. But the Sunlight ending is fine. Torkoal's not in play. And the Arcanine's obviously not going to be able to benefit from it anymore because it just got knocked out. And then the Trick Room ending means maybe he could deal with the Snorlax.
Maybe.
With Wolfe bringing his own.
Got to hit those play roughs.
It's got to hit them. Mudsdale sometimes are able to deal with it, but I don't think there's enough in the tank to take it from this range. But you can't ignore the Mimikyu on Wolf's side.
Yeah.
If you do, he's going to be able to set up Trick Room, and we're right back to where we were a turn or so ago.
Still has his Z move this game too, doesn't he?
He really does. He used a regular Destiny Bond early on. So he could just Z Destiny Bond, pull all that attention towards him. That would be interesting. And Snorlax could just start attacking Mudsdale. Then, you know, if he's comfortable that Mimikyu can't deal with everything, that's certainly an option. Or he could just try and set up Trick Room. You know, we've seen Snorlax probably isn't going to get knocked out. The play rough has to hit, which doesn't seem to be Alex's strong point today. But, you know, with those play roughs missing, that's given Wolfe so much time with his Snorlax on the field.
All right, well, Wolfe actually just going on the offensive, wants to end this quickly. Shadow Ball picks up the 1 hit point of Alex's Mimikyu. Mimikyu goes down, so Wolfe, Mudsdale actually showing Heavy Slam, will be connecting with that Mimikyu, will be able to pick up the KO there from the Mudsdale, but that Snorlax is still beefy and max attack frustration, finally connecting with Mudsdale, will pick up the KO. Wolfe Glick bounces back from a round 1 loss, takes a 2-0 victory over Alex Underhill, and our defending world champion will be in day 2.
Yes.
A shot at defending his title.
That's a really good run back for him as well, and I think learning from it, a little bit of kind of poetic justice, and then the luck that went against him, he got some of it again, but he got those key play rough misses, and you have to wonder, if you're in Alex's shoes, you know, what had happened if the play roughs? Would we have got game 3? I think we likely would have, because that was such an offensive Mimikyu setup. But overall, you know, very, very smart play from Wolfe. Played to his outs, didn't get too stressed by those rock slide flinches. That's the really important thing.
Yeah, I think the interesting difference between this game and the round 1 match was that while Wolfe may have lost some momentum from those flinches, he didn't have much threat. Like, the Lucario was much less threatening than Estefan's Garchomp from round 1.
Much so.
So, you know, even though Alex was getting a lot of the similar roles, he didn't have the tools available to really capitalize and sort of, you know, dominate from that position that happened in the first round.
Well, you have to ask as well, did that round 1 experience teach him what he needed to get out of this situation? You know, keep it cool. Let Snorlax set the belly drum up anyway. Bring in Tapu Fini. That game 2 play where Tapu Fini came in, was sticking around with the 6 hit points, I thought was fantastic. And that's something you learn throughout this tournament. Now, 5 wins is pretty good experience, but they do say you learn more from your losses than your victories. And to take the loss early, not get stressed out by it, come back with more information about how to play against a matchup or a certain problem that you face is fantastic. And Wolfe is a player good enough to really be able to do that at the highest level at the World Championships.
Absolutely. I mean, he's clearly proven that as he is the defending world champion. Alex, of course, put up a pretty good fight in those 2 games. He is not out of the tournament yet.
I don't want this team to leave the tournament. I'm going to be honest with you. This
we want to keep Torkoal and Lucario?
Torkoal, Lucario, and Drampa. We didn't see any Drampa.
Should have brought Drampa.
Could have been the winning solution, but I want
all the
to see
TCG
that.
guys have been telling me Drampa is the play.
I've heard it's something good. It's a bit different for them, but you know, they talk about it, and it's a Pokemon I think got a smattering of usage early. Actually, in a team with Torkoal, that it picked up some popularity, and then it was with Torkoal a lot of different things. This one, it was kind of a blend of some other teams, and I'd love to see that make it to day 2. Obviously, Alex has another shot at it in round 7. That's going to be an important one for him, but it's another win and in situation for him.
Yeah, and if you thought the day 2 lineup was stacked already, it just got even more difficult because, you know, a player like Wolfe, I know that he probably feels like he didn't have the best season by not automatically qualifying for day 2. He already came into this tournament hungry, and now after that first loss, something went off inside of him. He is on a rampage here, 5 wins straight. Stay out of his way in day 2.
Yeah, you really don't want to mess around with him. And you've got to think how he's been advancing and picking up the momentum and how he kind of got his groove back, how he got his mojo back after that round
his groove
1.
back.
I'd watch that if that was a film. I'd enjoy that. The only way I think we can figure that out, though, is actually talking to him, and Anna is ready to have a chat with him down in the interview area. Take it away, Anna.
Thanks, guys. I am back here with Wolfe. It's good to see you again, defending world champion.
Yes, thank you.
And that match was really fun from beginning to end. It looked like you were having fun, too, even kind of giving some eyebrows to the camera and all of that. Did you have a good time?
I had a good time when it was over, yeah.
you're kind of a veteran to being on stage, and there were a lot of moments that may have tilted a player that was maybe not as experienced or not as used to being in a high-pressure situation like that. What were some of those moments, and how do you, as an experienced player, kind of move past them and keep your head on straight?
So in the I feel like the first game was like relatively clean, but in the second game he was using a move that had like a percentage chance to make sure that I didn't move, and it happened a couple of times. And I was sitting there and I had a bit of deja vu because I was on stream round 1 and a very similar situation went on. But this time I feel like I just kept a clear head, and I recognized that rather than like think about like what had happened, I was just like, okay, this is the situation I'm in now, so how do I move forward? And I mean, I got a little lucky as well. Like if he'd gotten a little bit, just like one more turn of good luck, I think I wouldn't have been able to win. But fortunately, I also got some good luck at the end, which I didn't feel too bad about, given how we got there in the first place.
It was fun to watch you face off, and one of my favorite moments was watching the mind games with 2 Trick Room users. Tell us a little bit about what you were thinking there.
Yeah, so Alex actually got me really good at the end of game 1 where, Trick Room reverses the speed stats, and I didn't want that to be happening, so I tried to reverse it, and he predicted that and reversed it with his own. So in game 1, I was kind of trying to use Taunt to make it less of a mind game. Taunt prevents Trick Room, so I could know whether or not Trick Room was going up. But in the second game, I wasn't in a position to do that again, so I just was kind of like, if Trick Room goes up, then I'm just gonna have to deal with it, and I'll have to figure out something on the fly, and that's just kind of what I did, but yeah.
People at this point are pretty used to watching you play if they follow competitive Pokemon. What do you think they're going to see that's kind of the signature Wolfe here at Worlds, and what are they going to see that's brand new?
So this year, actually, I don't think I've ever been less prepared for Worlds. Like, it's always been like the pinnacle, but this year, I had a lot of ideas, and a lot of them just didn't really work out. So this is like not my craziest team by far, but I'm hoping I've got like enough of a unique spin on it to kind of give it my own special flavor, and then yeah, I don't know. I'm hoping to do well with a team that's not really my baseline, you know?
What do you think are the teams to watch, or even the players to watch, as you move forward in Worlds?
So there's a lot of Salamence and Metagross running around, a lot of it. I've played against it several rounds today, so I think that's really big. That's something that we saw a little bit at US Nationals, but it seems to be bigger right now. And there's like a lot of, the regular stuff, but I feel like there's a lot of like kind of quirky, less popular stuff that we're seeing. And so I really feel like there's so much going on at this Worlds that it's kind of hard to call. But in terms of players, I mean, obviously Marcus is going to be big. There's a lot of really good Latin America players who are going to be here, Japan, Korea. There's actually a lot of really good Americans this year. I think a lot of them have already moved through. Chris Danzo went 5-0. He's a really good player. And there's like a cool Tapu Koko Raichu team that's running around that a bunch of people are using. So yeah, honestly, I don't really know what to expect. I was kind of just focused on getting through day 1. So yeah, lots of stuff.
And you've accomplished that. And you said that you feel a little less prepared than usual, but you have succeeded in this arena many times. So how confident do you feel that you'll be able to do it again?
In terms of taking it all, not very confident, but I just kind of like to use this as like a learning experience and to see how far I can go when I'm not as prepared, but like kind of just relying on my playing and on my intuition. Whereas in the past, I tried to rely a lot on preparation. So for me, I think this will be a good exercise to see kind of how far I've come and like how well I can play. And I think I could go 0-3 tomorrow, and maybe I can make top cut. So I think a lot depends on how I'm feeling.
Well, best of luck as you do move forward. Thanks so much, Wolfe.
Thank you very much.
And now it's time to head back to the desk. Back to you, casters.
Thanks so much, Anna. I love hearing Wolfe talk about Pokemon. He always has some really interesting insights and a really unique take on the game. But you know what I like more than hearing top players talk about Pokemon?
Is it watching top players play Pokemon?
Absolutely.